So I have 12 stitches of stockinette, about 6 rows, and what I'm going to do is put a short row section in the center, 4 stitches wide and maybe 2 rows high. So the setup is easiest of any of these methods. I'll make a chain selvage on the edge just for fun, so slip the first stitch. Let me get the yarn set up here. Knit 1, 2, 3. So now we have 4 stitches. This is starting our short row section, but of course the first row of the short row is just keep going. 2, 3, 4. And now this is where it would say knit 4 and then wrap and turn if you're doing a fancy sing pattern, or you might just say turn the work. So we got to the turn point. Rather than what I would normally do would be slip it and wrap the yarn away and around this stitch, which I can never remember which way to wrap the yarn. But instead I'm just going to turn and purl back. And at the edge I made a chain selvage, so I slipped the first stitch. In the short row section you need that stitch there, so you just purl. 3, 4. So I've got my 4 stitches in the center, and it's another, you would say, wrap and turn, but in our case we just turn. So that was all normal, except for ignoring any wrapping directions. Now I want to, what I would normally be doing would be going back and picking up this loop. I'll go to this edge and then I'll come back. In this case, we just knit 2, 3, 4. Oops. Knit the 4 short rows as normal, and here's the new bit. So, let me center this. Okay, along this edge, see it there? We have 3 loops from our knit edge. And what we want to do is get the back, we want to keep this neat. So we don't want to knit together with any of these loops, because if we pull them it will distort the fabric. So what you actually want to do is look on the back. There's you can see the purl ridges like normal, except there's this weird little diddle here, which you probably can't see. I'll take close-up pictures later. So you're actually going to be picking up that loop, which, if you want to look at it from the front, what I'm actually pulling on here is the back of the top loop. So this here is the stitch I knit into, and what I did was I grabbed the yarn that comes up. So this is actually where the yarn over would come, I mean the wrap would come from, or if you're doing Japanese short rows, this is where you would have stuck the stitch marker or safety pin. But you don't have to do that, you can just read your knitting. So from the front, here's the loop of the stitch I just knit into, and I can poke my needle in from the front under that leg in the stitch below and trap the leg of that loop. And then now I have to knit these together. I don't want to create a stitch, I just want to snug it up against, knit those together, and then knit to the end. And then we have here, I need better light. There's this one stitch here, and you can see those 2 are kind of offset with it from the short. And then turn, slip the first stitch for a chain selvage. 1, 2, 3. We're to our short row section, but this is where we just picked up so we don't have to worry about it. 3, 4. Now this is back to, we have extra height here. So in this case, you can kind of see this is the loop I just knit into, and it's coming around at the front of the work. We don't want to mess with the front of the work, so we pick it up here where there's this extra horizontal loop. Pick it up, and then if you're picky like me, slip it, change the mount of the purl stitch by slipping purlwise, slip it back, and purl through the back loop. That's just to avoid this stitch getting twisted. And then purl back. And then you have pretty invisible short rows with some, you know, distorted stitches from the I'm not a perfect knitter and I was yanking stuff around. But there's no wraps, there's no extra yarn anywhere. If anything, it snugs up this stitch a little bit to do it that way. And that's how it's done.